Thanks for tuning in to EDC Journeys. This is my overview of the Civivi Fracture. Hope you enjoy it. If you do, hit the thumbs up button and please consider subscribing. What's going on, EDC people, and what is our journey today? I want to talk about the Civivi Fracture briefly. Just an overview. This knife will be applicable to my long-term progress report videos list that I put out a little announcement video about earlier today, or earlier than this video anyways. I don't know exactly when I'll put this up compared to that one, but what I mean by all that is this came with the knives that Lee over at Love Them Knives, who I've got all his knives ready to go. I'm packing them up. Lee, I will be in contact with you shortly about the when and all that stuff. But anyways, yeah, you will get your knives back. What was I saying? Yes, the Fracture Lee sent me. And it's the Civivi Fracture, the slip joint. It is, in my opinion, a really awesome knife. But I've got a few things to say about it. Of course, right? Because that's what I do. What would be a video without Bob giving an opinion about something? The reason why I brought up Lee over at Love Them Knives, LTK, is this came in the package of knives that he sent. And he very kindly gifted it to me. It is a Cevivi slip joint. And it's nothing, out of this ballpark cost-wise, but that's not the point. I really like this knife. In fact, it was me who was like, hey, how much would you sell that to me for? Thinking, maybe he'd give me a sweet deal. And he was like, hey, why don't you just keep it as my gift to you? And I thought that was really nice of him. So I've waited till the end of his knives, doing my impressions on all of Love Them Knives' knives that he sent me, in order to do this knife, because I could hold it the longest. It didn't matter when I got to it, really. And I could spend some time with it where, his loaned knives I couldn't use every day because they're obviously part of his collection, and he keeps them in mint condition like most collectors would. So I couldn't really use those knives. And then when he gifted this to me, that kind of changed things. So not that I've gone all ham on it or anything, but it allowed me to put it in pocket and carry it. So I have some things to say about it. Well, let's get some of the basics out of the way first. First of all, you're asking, why is the clip on the left hand position? Because you're right-handed, Bob. Well, you're right. Normally a clip for a right-handed person is typically on the non-show side, meaning where the clip would be, because it slides into your right pocket or your back right pocket, right? But you want it tip up with this along your seam, usually, and this along the edge. But I'm practicing or trying, or I'm just dinking around with the idea of having this be a secondary carry, seeing as how it is a slip joint. It's definitely capable of being a full EDC. It's good enough for that size, and we'll talk more about that. But I'm playing around with the idea of having this in the left-handed position and having in my left pocket. So I'm just playing with it. We'll see if it stays that way, but that is why the clip is on that side. Okay, so let's get started. First up, let's do a little measurement. I have purposely stayed away from other videos on this knife because I know it's been out for a little while, but just to form my own opinion. It looks like just about 3.5 if you go down to the edge here. And so 3.5-inch blade, and looks like 4. I'm trying to be kind of rough around the clip here. 4 1/4. So about 4 1/4 for the handle, and what did I say? 3.5 for the blade. compared to your Elementum. A lot of you have an Elementum or have handled one, so there's a comparison. Here's a pair of 3. Now, neither of these are slip joints, but that's irrelevant. I'm just giving you size reference so that you can get the idea, and I'm lining them up by pivot so that you can compare the handle and the blade to each other, or I'm trying to anyways here through the phone. Maybe I'm going sideways. Is that lined up or am I lopsided here? This is harder than it looks, you know, guys. This is complicated work. Okay. Regardless, you get the basic idea. The blade itself, the cutting blade, while a similar profile to the Elementum, has where the Elementum cuts off and has that choil, this doesn't. It continues. So it has a very Elementum-like geometry to it, but it's slightly longer without that choil. And then the pair of 3 is, again, more for size reference. The handle's about the same size, although much more slender than the pair of 3, and the blade is obviously longer. Let's see what else I have. The Odium sitting right here. Look at triple Cevivi. So you can kind of compare. I still have the Elementum up there, but whatever. Okay, so it's a bigger knife. It's not a small little, you know, 5th pocket carry. Even though it's a slip joint, slip joints can be real size knives, and here's one. Okay, so let me move these out of the way and we will talk more. Oh yes, we need the weight. The weight, always the weight. In ounces, pretty much 3 ounces. 86 grams, but 3 ounces. The stock. Now, before I give you that measurement, I want to show you something. It is that straight or hollow ground? It actually almost feels slightly hollow ground. I believe, and again, this is coming from someone who hasn't really looked much information up on this particular knife. I don't have the website open in front of me. It feels like what I have here, down here, is what's the word I'm looking for? Just lost my train of thought. Hollow ground, as opposed to straight ground. Yeah, I think that's hollow ground. And then you see it's got a flat, and of course this big hole, which we'll talk more about. But take a look at all the different swedging, and I think it looks pretty cool. Now, it does have a very small, a very limited amount of space. That is probably why they chose to do hollow. Yeah, 12.3 millimeters, about, say 12 millimeters of drop from where it's at its thickest, which is I suppose it's the same there. So it's about 2.45 millimeters. Okay, so 2.45 millimeters up here, and then about 12 millimeters of actual hollow plunge down to the apex. And it's probably, I haven't used it heavily, but I have been carrying it in general ever since Lee gifted it to me, because from that point on it was open game. So I'm trying to wipe this off and show you. I believe it's mostly still the factory edge. If I can, you know what, I always remember the zoom feature. See if I can get you a glint in the window just right or something. Yeah, I may not really be able to show you too well. It's got a decent edge on it. But it's got this handle it's really, you know, slim, but it's got this arc in it. Plus, it's almost got this like slanted, You know, in traditional knives, there's such a thing as like a Coke bottle shape. It kind of looks like a Coke bottle shape where it's bending that way, like something's pulling at the Coke bottle in the middle, and it got stuck that way. And what that does is it gives you this ultimate feeling of comfort. It's ergonomic. Your finger lands right where it should, just to keep it safe. Not only is it on that ramp, but it's right in between the handle and the blade, meaning you're putting your finger on where that spring lifts, giving yourself added protection by having pressure where if you hit the back of the blade, it's not going to close, because it is not a locking knife. It's a slip joint. But there's the stigma out there is huge about slip joints. People are so afraid of them getting cut by them, but you just have to understand them and respect them. But that's neither here nor there. Zero out. It's such a thin handle, 0.39, nearly 0.40, let's just say. So it's definitely thinner than, let's see here, what do I have? I have an Elementum sitting here. I don't know, it's the micarta variant. 0.42, okay, so it's about the same width as a Elementum. But those are both Civivi. Let's get a different, well, that's a big guy. How about the pair of 3? That'll be a decent example. Maybe not, 0.45. Maybe I'm a little, I've been saying 0.5 is about average for a EDC handle, but maybe I'm overdoing it a little. Maybe 0.45. I mean, it's not that much different, but is more realistic. But anyways, it is still a thin handle. It's G10. It's got great texture on it. You know, Cevivi is made by We. Both companies put out great G10. So that scale is solid G10. You can see the steel liners, which have weight relief. At that weight, it obviously does. 3 ounces, I think we said it was. But I really like it. Now, can it be, here's the big question, with that hole, is it one-hand operable? How do I answer this in a way that I'm not going to get sued? You probably shouldn't. It's probably best, the real advice in, the instruction manual advice from me is this should be used as a 2-hand knife for safety. Now, can you open this with one hand? I can, and once you get comfortable, you can. It takes 2 steps for me. It's not like it's a quick draw, and then I can very easily, keeping my fingers out of the way, go like this to the half stop, reorient, and close. So, can I operate this with one hand? Yes. Am I giving you advice to operate it with one hand? I'm afraid to say yes. It can be done, but as a slip joint, I don't want to advise anyone to do anything like that because it could be dangerous at that point. But if you get comfortable enough with it, you clearly, obviously can. And wow, is it so weird to look at this show side with a clip on it. It's so strange for me to see that. Next question people ask. Does the hole get in the way of cuts? Well, obviously, depends what you're cutting. If I... of course, not appropriate. It's really sharp. I do keep my knives nice and sharp, and it is, I'm sure, not really that used yet. But you can see I'm S-cutting. Now this is just newspaper, but I'm not holding it in any special way. Okay? I know that there are ways that you can hold paper to make it cut. And maybe I'm doing it that way. I don't know. I don't know how to do that. I'm just showing you that wasn't a good example, but I'm just showing you that it's it does cut nicely. And the hole, does it get in the way? Well, again, depends on what you're cutting. It doesn't interrupt me cutting things like paper or string or things that I would pull this EDC out for, or this knife out for. Sorry about that noise in your ear. Okay. So, you know, does it get in the way? I don't, nothing, not to an extent that would bother me. I would use this to even slice an apple. I'm sure that there's in some way you can make this be a negative, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, but cutting through an apple all the way, or food, you know, say a potato, it could get stuck. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But I don't do that very often with my slip joints. I mean, I'm just saying. Look at, there's the lanyard hole. It's obviously ambidextrous because I have it in the left-hand position. The nice Cevivi pivot cover, which I always appreciate from them. Always appreciate the non-billboarded or minimal billboarding on the handle or on the steel. This is, it's only, yeah, that's what I thought. I think it, yeah. HCR 14 MOV. If I could tell you that I really knew that what the difference between HCR 13 and HCR 14 was, I'd be lying. I am going to look it up and find out. In fact, I'm going to look it up and find out. Do you remember when Google wasn't a thing? And you had to, like, look things up or research or go to the library? The letters are for the elements. So when we're talking about steels, the numbers are for the elements. I mean, the letters are for the elements, and the numbers are for the number, you know, the percentage. So the first number is the decimal carbon. So 8, like, for example, 8CR13 MOV. 8CR means it's 0.8% carbon. And then, so 8CR14 MOV has 1% more chromium. And then, according to Google, the 8CR14 MOV would be a little bit more corrosion resistant, and if heat treated to the same hardness, should have about the same edge retention. So it would have a slightly, you know, what I get from it is that there's a very minuscule difference in 8CR13 and 8CR14, but the 14 would give you a little bit more corrosion resistance and roughly the same edge retention as 8CR13. Sorry, I'm rearranging my mat here because the wrinkles bug me and I have OCD. So, you know, I would say it's not much different than 8CR. Do I wish it was a better steel? Yes. Do I really care? Not so much. Not on this knife. It's a secondary knife to me, and yes, it can be used as a primary knife. If this was going to be my primary knife, I could still deal with the steel being 8CR. I would definitely have to sharpen it, but oh, you do have a great sharpening oil. I want to point that out because I talk about this in several videos and I want to really show you a good sharpening oil. Do you see that plunge? Let me try to make it so it focuses and everything like that. All that high-tech stuff. I'm trying to do it in the light and focus and everything, all these things I want. Okay, so there's the thick part, and then it starts to plunge down. It gets to the point where it's the stock thickness right around here. It gives you a pretty tremendous amount of area to sharpen. And being a hollow ground, you're going to maintain a really thin edge as you sharpen a knife. You know, a straight ground, say, for example, a Mannix, great slicer, right? Slides right through things, but as you sharpen, as you think about this steel coming back, it's going to get thicker, slowly, thicker and thicker. And that's just the nature of the beast. Whereas a hollow point, for a while anyways, probably more than the duration of the time that you'll use the knife in all reality, will stay thinner because it is hollow ground. That's one of the huge benefits of hollow ground knives. So, do I like this knife? Yes. What was I answering? Could it be used as an EDC? Yes, it could. The steel is the biggest thing that's holding it back, but you know, you can certainly sharpen your knives. Now, would I use this as my EDC if I use a knife all day long every day? No, probably not. You know what I mean? Like, then you probably, yes, obviously want a knife with. Oh, sorry, I got a battery warning. Got to wrap this video up. You would want a knife, therefore, with better steel. But there's the back spacer or spring. It's not really crowned. It's pretty much flush. It's nice and comfortable. It's very smooth. They did great work on the G10 scales. Must be actually, those kind of look like T8s. So it might be T8s all the way around except for the pocket clip, which would be nice. I should really check that for you, but I'm not going to. I have not much time just because of the battery, or else I would. I think it is T8s all the way around. Okay, now you've guilted me into it. Yes, okay, Weehaw Bits. I don't have any affiliations with anyone yet, unfortunately. Someday maybe I'll have one with Amazon where I can plug things like and say, hey, go buy Weehaw Bits with my thing down below. But I don't do enough. I don't have enough of a channel yet to do that kind of stuff. So I do want to show you that I'm using Weehaw Bits because I truly want you to know that these are good bits. And I'm making nothing. I have no horse in this race. So it starts with 5, so that's T5, T6, T7, T8. And we'll double check that. We are T7, I got the wrong one. Oh, I had him in the wrong spot. What do you know? Typical Bob move. But it's nice to be able to keep your Torx bits together. And I'm not going to bother putting it into a driver, but this is T8. Yes, T8 all the way around. And just for giggles, I just want to see, this is now T9. Yeah, it doesn't fit. So it's T8 all the way around. Okay? You hounded me enough until I got the information for you. I'm just kidding. I should have had it already. But isn't that cool? It's another feature, especially even on a slip joint, which is halfway take apartable. Which, you know, meaning that you're not going to want to, well, at least I'm not going to want to disassemble this. I don't know how it works really inside, but if you know how to, great. But you can at least take the scales off if you want to, so you can treat the metal inside. It looks like you could at least do that much. And then you can clean and access this side. You know, what I would do to maintain cleanliness, in there you can see the skeletonized liners, is just use cotton swabs, Q-tips, and rubbing alcohol, and get up in there and clean it. And I'm sure for those of you who are comfortable disassembling slip joints, you know how to do it or can do it. That's great. So that's the Civivi Fracture, and it has a story behind it. I forgot, and I got my battery's dying. So this knife, supposedly the story is that Civivi made this knife and put it at the price point it's at, because it's like just barely under $30, I think. And they put it out as like a thank you to to customers, because customers have, you know, since the backlash and Elementum and Praxis and all that stuff came out, Cevivi blew up huge. And from my understanding, this knife was like hey, thanks for taking, you know, for looking our way and trying our knives out, even though we're a Chinese brand. Here's a knife that's at a good price. I kind of thought it would be already gone and done with at this point. I didn't think that you would still be able to currently buy them at this time, because I know it was supposed to be a limited quantity. Maybe they sold less than I expected them to. Pocket clip screws are flat. I just wanted to mention that. It's not inset into the G10, but at least you got flat screws on a deep carry clip. Anyways, not to get totally sidetracked. So yeah, so it was a thank you knife at that price. So whatever. I guess I'm kind of glad it's still around because it allows me to show this to you and you can go get it. You know, I would suggest if you are going to buy this, I would suggest going to whitemountainknives.com because you can use code LTK, like Love Them Knives, LTK, to get 10% off your order. And it's from New Hampshire, so I don't believe there's sales tax. And I believe shipping is free. So that would be where I would get this if I was looking for one right now. If they're out of stock, of course you can look up Blade HQ and Smoky Mountain Knife Works, and wherever you'd like to go is great. Or if you have a local store to support local business, that's even better. But if you're asking my advice on a place to go, I would go to Smoky Mountain. No, I would go to White Mountain Knives because you can use code LTK to get 10% off. This is the drop point variant. There is a Tanto variant also, so be careful as you're ordering. There is two different, I believe, you have colors to choose from, and then two different blade styles, the Tanto and the drop point. I prefer the drop point myself. Plus, that's the one I had from Lee, but it just is the one I like the most, so that's why I wanted to get it from him anyways. That's why I originally asked him how much he would take for it. And then he very kindly gifted it to me. And I so appreciate that, Lee. Thank you so much. It helps me in immense ways to not have to make more purchases. I'm trying, as a channel just starting, it's hard. So that's my overview of the Civivi Fracture. I really like the knife. It could easily be used as an EDC. For me, it's a secondary carry just because it is a slip joint, doesn't lock. But it could... I would have no qualms in taking this as my one knife for a day. If I was going out for the day and this was the only knife I had, I would be fine. But it depends on what your lifestyle and how often you use your knife. And if you're a knife user, you should know if this is enough for you or not. That's it. Have a great day. EDC Journeys out. Hope you enjoyed the overview of the Civivi Fracture. If you did, hit the thumbs up button, and please, if you haven't, consider subscribing.